Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to continue on our path to Google certification. So once again, our bit.ly to this slide deck is right here. It's bit.ly/path to GC1, and that's Google Certification 1. And you can always go back to this slide deck, and we're continuing to add to it as we go through each of these tools that we can use for our certification. So I'm going to exit out of here and show you a couple of things. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'll be coming over here to my right and probably your left and just admitting people as we go here. So we have done all of these so far, these different sessions. Each one of these has been like a 30-minute session or so. And right now we're on number 9. And this is what we're going to talk about today. This is just the basics of forms. Tomorrow, Paula is going to actually get in there and talk to us about creating quizzes with forms. But today we're just talking about forms and surveys and how to use them. Okay. So a couple of things I want to start here, housekeeping items. I want to take you back to, this is where we have our NTI site, the home site, and all the resources that we have put on here. And if you go to teacher resources and Google Level 1 certification right there, it has our schedule. And we will continue to do this until pretty much the last week of school, I think. And so right here, if you go back to these links, this is where we're linking all of these archive video sessions that we've been doing. Okay, so probably tomorrow, later in the day, you'll find a link here for this session right here that we're doing right now. Okay, so let's open up a Google form and kind of get started. These are the things that we're going to be talking about. Creating a form, form question types, pictures and videos, basic settings. And I want to set you straight on some basic settings so that you don't fall apart if you're doing something a little bit more complicated. I will help you out. Sending a form. And there's a special way that we're going to do that, 2 different ways. And I'll show you those as well. One of those is something that we probably won't use in Fayette County very much, but it is a way that you probably might use it on the test. Okay, and then we'll view form responses, what that looks like, and then the all-important turning forms on and off, okay? So let me go to Google Drive here, and I'm going to show you how to create a form. Really easy to do. Just get in your Google Drive, go to the New button, and scroll down to where it says More, and then go over here to Google Forms. So I'm going to click on that. And let me tell you, Google Forms are powerful. There is so much that you can do with them, and they can be very creative. They can be very just rigid. A lot of control that you have here if you're in a school setting. Now, NTI, not so much, but we will talk about the ins and outs of that a little bit more. So I'm just going to create one today. And I'll call it my classroom inventory. And a little bit more about that later. Okay. So when I name it over here, it actually titles it here automatically for us. It's pretty intuitive. So sometimes you'll be asking different questions, and it will actually give you hints of what you can do to make it a little bit easier for you to create that question and create that Google form. So I'm just going to kind of go around the interface a little bit here first. So right here, you can click on this, and you can move this form to a different place inside your Google Drive. You can star it so it's easier to find, which will show up in your Google Drive as well on the category side over on the left. Okay. Here we have responses. We don't even have a quiz built yet, so there's not much reason to go there right now, but we'll go there in a few minutes. Here I have a puzzle piece, and these are add-ons, and this is really kind of an advanced feature that we're not going to talk about today, but you may or may not have that on yours when you open it. I do because I've used some add-ons before. Over here is our little customized theme. I like to call it a palette choice. So if we click on there, we can have different theme options. And I'm going to choose one right here, choose the image header. And you have all these different choices of how you can let the background right here, it's not going to be the entire form. It's just going to be kind of the top, what it will look like, and what choices you want to make and so forth. So you can scroll down and find some, whatever you like. There's lots of different choices here. You know, just for kids, those are a little bit simpler, more elementary and so forth. There's illustrations and so forth. You can actually upload one if you want, but I don't have very many pictures. Again, they're like really kind of not very tall and very wide that would really look nice there. So I just kind of stick with the themes. And I'm just going to find one right here. Let's see, maybe this one right here since it's a little classroom looking. So I'll go to insert there. And there's my header right there. It's just very simple. Now, some of those actually move. So if your kids like things that move while they're taking a quiz, that's fine to use, but you may want to think about that while they're actually taking the quiz, if it's going to be distracting to them or not. Then you can get a theme color. You can change the background a little bit here. I might go something a little bit darker, so that looks pretty good to me. And then you can also change the font color here. That looks good. You can change the font style, not the color. It can be decorative, formal, or playful. I'll just keep it here as basic because that works pretty well for me. Okay. So I'm gonna close those out. Now, also up here, you have an eyeball, and that's just a preview. There's nothing really to preview right now, so we'll go back to that in just a minute. Now, this is really important, okay? So this is your cogwheel, this is your settings. So if I click on that, I want to make some basic changes to how this form will actually work, okay? And a couple of these, you may want to just adopt what I'm choosing. If you haven't used forms very much at all, it may just save you some heartache in the long run, and that's a good thing. So you definitely want to collect email addresses. When we go to the responses, there will be a column of all the email addresses that we've collected. And if we're having students take a serious quiz or a serious test, then we want to make sure that's actually the student that is taking it and not just somebody else. Okay. Down here, it says response receipts. Now, what that means is they will get an email that will show them what they've actually filled out on the Google form. It'll show them each answer and the choice. I'm sorry, each question and then the choice that they made for the answer. Now, I like to set this as always, and that ensures that number one, they get a receipt seeing what they've actually chosen, and number two, it lets them know that they have completed the test and that it's in the right place for me to actually see their answers. Okay. Now down here, I want to restrict it to Fayette County people. That's a good thing. I also want to limit it to one response. If you leave this unchecked, they can come back into the Google quiz or the form and take it several times. There may be circumstances where that really makes sense, but I like to keep it at these kinds of settings because number one, if you use these 4 settings, you're in good shape if you're going to use a quiz in Google Classroom, okay? Because this will actually fill the grade section of Google Classroom if you set it up this way and you're using the quiz assignment feature in Google Classroom. Okay, there's some other choices here. I just kind of leave these unchecked. It's up to you, but I kind of like it like this. So now I'm going to go to the next tab and it's presentation. This is how the quiz or the form will be presented to them. And I can show a progress bar. You know what that looks like. I can also shuffle the question order, and that's really important, something that you probably will talk about a little bit more tomorrow. But I will show you a little hint today. When I'm making sections today, I'm going to put the first name and the last name of the student in one section, and then I'm going to put the rest of the questions in another section. So I think that's how you should use that. That way, if the first and last name is shuffled, that's fine. But it's not shuffled with the other questions that are underneath. Okay, so it's not going to be confusing. In other words, they won't have their first name and last name as like the first and last questions that you have in your quiz if you shuffle it. Okay, so shuffling is fine. You just have to set up the form a little bit differently. I'll show you that. All right, confirmation message. I think this is great, especially if your kids are having some kind of assignment to do after this. So today we're going to do like an interest inventory. So I'm going to say something like this. Glad you completed the form. Please go ahead and work on your class assignment. All right. Now, I just want to I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go back into this. Okay, I just want to do that. So notice all those changes have saved. That has saved for me. I'm going to go back to over here to where it says quizzes. Now, this is something that you'll get into with Paula tomorrow, so I'm not going to go into this, okay? So I have this saved and my presentation saved, and so far it's not a quiz because I haven't chosen to make it a quiz. All right, so I hit save, and I'm in good shape there. Now, over here is the send button, and a couple things here. This is how you're going to deploy your quiz, your form, whatever it is that you're making here to either your parents or your students or whatever. Now, you can email this out. So you may want to email this to a person and they will actually get it as a person in their email. Okay, so I can email it to Kelly here, and I can have, a subject here, and I invited you to fill out a form. So that's how you could send that to a student. Okay, and you click on include form in the email, and that would work. You can also add collaborators that way. So people that can work on the quiz with you together so that you can both get in there and you can change questions and add questions and edit as much as you like. Okay. Now, the other way that you may want to send this out is through a link. Okay. So you can take this link, you can send it through email. You can actually put it in Google Classroom. That's fine. Either way would be fine with that. Also in Google Classroom, you can just add your form like you normally would by going through Google Drive. Okay, so we go through Google Drive. Instead of finding a doc or a sheet or a slide deck, you would just find the form and add it that way. So you can do that as well. The third way that you can send this out is you can go right here, and this is an embed code. That embed code can be used in a Google site, or it can also be used in a Canvas course. So yes, Google Forms work perfectly fine with Canvas, work great, okay? And then you can change the width and height and so forth. This is pretty standard, I think, for most of the things that you would embed into a website though, okay? Now over here, you have this checked, and I would keep this checked as well. Okay. Now, if you're doing sending something to your parents, then yes, leave that unchecked, and you still may want to collect email addresses, if that works for you. But again, if we're doing this for kids, we want to keep everything checked that way. Okay. So let's get into actually making a quiz. So right now I have just a title here, and I can put some of a description here as well. And I've already had a question down here. So when you first create it, it puts a question in there for you. Now you're not seeing the question really because I haven't clicked inside it. So I'm gonna click right here, and all this stuff comes up, gives me some choices. I can, change what the title of the question is. I can put in some answer choices here and so forth. Um, I can also make copies of this and duplicate it several times. I may want to do that. If I don't like what I'm seeing here, I can just toss this in the garbage. It's deleted. I can also click this to be turned on and off and make it required. In other words, if they don't answer the question, they can't progress on to the rest of the test. So typically, I think you probably want this to be required. You don't have to, okay? It depends on how you want to set it up. Now, these three dots here are really important. In this case, I have a multiple choice question. These three dots let me do a few other things. They let me go to section based on answer, which Paula will cover tomorrow, and I can do a few other things. If I changed this to say short answer, then the three dots actually changes to something else. One thing is called response validation, and that's a pretty cool feature too. So depending on what kind of question you've chosen here, you will get different choice types for what the three dots will do, okay? Some of them may be the same, but some of them will be different. All right, so I'm gonna go back to multiple choice here, and I'm just going to add a multiple choice question. So here's the first question I'm going to add. I'm going to ask something like this. How do you like to learn? And again, this is just a classroom interest inventory. And I'm going to say something like this: by myself, with a friend, or in a small group. Okay. So I have three choices here. Now, I could also add images to this, and I'm not going to do it for this question. I'm going to do one later on. Just by clicking right here, you can add images. Now, if you had too many responses, like I clicked this too many times, I was waiting for this one right here. Instead of having 4 responses, I only want 3. So I can go right here to this little X button and just close that out. Okay. Now, I'm finished with that question. I want to add another question. So let's go over here to the sidebar. Right here, you can add different choices. Okay, so there's a question. I can choose whatever type of question I want to use. Let's just kind of go through these a little bit, and I'll talk about them. Short answer is exactly what you think. Paragraph is probably more that essay type question. People have asked me in the past, how long does that paragraph question go? Or how long can that short answer be? I'm not really sure. I think they can be pretty long. I know that's not a great question, but I haven't tried it out. So again, the paragraph can go pretty far. Short answer, I would think, would be something like less than a sentence. Okay. All right, multiple choice, you know what that is? Check boxes. That's where you can have multiple choices for the answer. So in one of these questions I'm going to do in a minute, they'll have multiple choices. We'll use the checkbox feature. You can choose a drop-down feature. So maybe something is hard to spell, or maybe you want to limit it so that instead of them saying, oh, maybe they're saying instead of the US, they might say USA or United States, and you want to collect that data, but now you have 3 different ways that they said the exact same answer. So a good choice for you may just be choose United States as part of a drop-down. That way you don't get 3 different types of answers that really are the same answer, if that makes sense. I think drop-downs are pretty good for that, especially when you're giving out questions that may have more than one choice that really is the same choice. Okay, file upload. Gosh, this is so important, really cool. I'm going to click on that and just kind of show you what that looks like. It says let respondents upload files to Drive. Okay, that's fine. Now, while it's thinking, this is where if you want to collect, maybe it's an image that the students have created, maybe it's a digital art image, or maybe it's an audio clip that they finished. Maybe they made some kind of podcast or recording, or maybe it's a video, a short video that they've done. So an easy way to collect those is actually create a Google form that looks just like this and uses the file upload feature. So I could put a question in here, something like, let's see, post your video here to upload. Okay. And I can choose what kind of file type I want to use here. So I can turn that on and I can make it just a video. And maybe it really could be an audio too. So I put audio. So whatever the choices make here, it's going to limit those uploads just to be those type of formats. So that's going to help you kind of, instead of them loading up a document and you want a video or even a PDF or something like that, it restricts it so they can only upload these types of formats. Now, if you're more than okay with what they want to upload, you have different formats that they can do, that's fine. Then you can just leave that off, okay? Maximum number of files, you can select whatever you want here. I usually leave it at 1. Maximum file size, yeah, so like a typical song, it could be like 3 megabytes to 5 megabytes or something like that. So an audio clip that's a song, it's probably about 3 to 4 megabytes. So that gives you an idea of how big this is. Video sizes, you probably want to leave maybe as 100 megabytes or even a gigabyte because they can get pretty large. Now, all of this, whatever file type it is, all of that actually saves to your Google Drive, okay? Now, and once they have done this, they've completed it, it actually creates a spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet organizes it by name, their first name and last name, if you ask them that question. It also collects their email address if you're collecting it in the settings like we did here. But then it gives you a link to that upload that they gave, to that video or that audio or that image or whatever it may be. And then if you want to share that out with your kids, with friends, you can make that file, you can make that spreadsheet shareable so that other people can look inside there and see what other people have done, see what their classmates have done. I think that's a great option for your kids to share what they're doing with others. It's an easy way to share that out and organize it. Okay, so let's look at some other file types here. Linear scale is like a Likert scale. Okay, so it's like I'm really bad at that. I'm a 1, or number 5. I'm awesome. I can't believe how good I am. I'm a 5. You can do something like that. Down here is multiple choice grid and checkbox grid. Those are kind of they're kind of like seeing kind of like that Likert scale, but also having different choices of what can be inside that same question. So I'm going to show you an example of that in a few minutes, and that will make a little bit more sense. Down here for date, that can be like July the 4th, that can be a date. Also down here, you can have like time. That time could be two different things. It could be duration, like it took me 6 hours to travel to Atlanta, Georgia, or it could be time, like as in at 3:30 p.m. we arrived. So it could be a duration of time, how many minutes or hours or days. It could also be a date, a specific date when you, I'm sorry, it could be a specific time of when you actually arrived or departed, okay? So if you're doing some kind of math question or something and asking when the two trains meet each other, then that time piece is going to be perfect for you, because it's going to tell you exactly what time that should be. And it will help students type that in correctly too. So it's a little bit easier for you to read. Okay. All right, so those are question types. Now over here, I can import questions. So if I click on that, I can actually find other forms that I've completed, and I can open them up, and I can use some of those questions if I wanted to. So this goes to all the forms that I've been working on. I have a lot of them in here, but if I wanted to use some of those questions that I've used for maybe I'm doing a unit test and I had actually given quizzes previously in the year, and I want to draw from those same quiz questions that I'd used before, it'd be perfect for that. Okay. Over here, this is just for adding titles and descriptions if you want to add some more of those. Here, you can add an image, and then that image actually becomes part of your question. You can also add one right here. Here, you can add a video, and we'll show you how to add a video in just a moment. And then down here is a section break, and I talked about that a little bit earlier when we were talking about shuffling questions. So I'm going to add a section break right here. So just click on the equal sign. And I'm going to put this question right here, down here in this section. So you see those 6 little dots that show up? And then I go to that little compass feature. I can click and drag that down, and I can stay organized a little bit better here this way. So what I'm going to do here is go back up here, and I'm going to add some questions. I'm going to add first name. And I always add this because it makes it a little bit easier for when we get to the spreadsheet section to organize by last name and first name if I want to. So it's going to be short answer, that's fine. I'm going to add another question. I'm going to say, what is your last name? Oops. Okay, and it's short answer as well. Now, so when I had that shuffle turned on, remember when we went back to settings and we had presentation mode and shuffle question order? Okay, it only shuffles questions inside sections. So if these two questions get shuffled, it's not a big deal. Now, down here where I have maybe a quiz that I'm creating, then I would want to go ahead and make sure that they're all in a different section to be shuffled together, okay? Now, also, when I go to preview mode, let's go to preview real quick. When you do that section break, it makes you finish sections, like the first section first, and then you can go to the second section. So if I just type in something here, now I can go to the next section that has more questions in it, okay? So it's really nice to use those section breaks to help break up the test for the kids, especially the ones who get a little bit overwhelmed when they see something this long that they have to take, and it just makes their eyes pop out. We don't want that. Okay, so let's go here, and we'll just title this as what I want to know. How about that one? Yep. Okay. So I have 2 questions in here already. I'm going to do this video upload one. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one, so I don't need that anymore. So let's add my second question that I have here. And this one is about music. So I'm going to choose a question here to add. I'm going to change it up so that it's actually check boxes they can have, because I'm going to ask them about the different types of music types that they like. And they may have, a wide variety of music that they like to listen to. So they may choose more than one here. So here we go. So what kind of music do you listen to? And the first one's going to be rock, of course. And then we have pop music. We have a little bit of R&B / soul music. Then we have hip hop and rap. Then we have some country music. And then we have some classical music. And we'll add one more. We'll add some jazz. Okay. So that's my checkbox question. Now, I'm going to add another question here. And this time around, I'm going to add some pictures in here to help us, give a visual effect of what the kids will be looking at. Pictures are a great idea, especially if you're using with those with our K1 kids, our primary kids. That will help them kind of figure out what you're saying, what they're trying to read if they're not a very good reader. It's also a great way to talk about different books, about different genres, looking at pictures and getting a feeling for it. Also, you can use it for math. It's a great idea to input graphs, to put charts in there, maps. If you're using maps in social studies, lots of different ways to use these. So I'm going to add another question here. All right, and my question is, what type of candy do you like the most? All right, so I'm going to go to my first option here, and I'm going to choose sour candies. And I actually uploaded some pictures to my my computer earlier today, so I'm going to go grab that picture that I have. So I'm going to go to Add Image here. And I can take, inserting images, you can go by URL, by photos. You can go to your Google Drive if it's living there. You can do a Google search for whatever image you're looking for as well. I actually uploaded it to my computer, so I'm just going to go to the Upload tab here, and then I'm going to browse for that. Okay. And it's actually in my documents. It's right here in Candy Picks. So I just did one on sour, so I'm going to choose the sour gummy worms there. And wait for it to upload. Okay, I'm going to scroll down, and there's a picture of it. So I'm going to go in here again, and I'm going to add the next option, which is chocolate. Erase that out here. I'll go find a picture again. This is a little bit quicker this time because I'm not going through all the other options. So I'll click on chocolate. All right, go up on the next one, and we'll go on chewy. All right, browse to it. And we have chewy candy right there. And we're going to do one more. We're going to do hard candy. All right, hard candy. Okay. All right, I'll go to browse, find that last picture. There it is. Okay, and now I have my form, and that's all I'm really going to add to this form right here. I'm going to do one more thing because we need to talk about videos. So let's talk about videos. Let's say that after I've done this, I want them to see a picture on how candy is made, something like that. So I can add one more picture here. So, well, let's just add a video. Let's just add a video. We'll do a search for it. How chocolate candy is made. All right, milk chocolate from scratch. That sounds awesome to me. Remember, you want to go to YouTube and find these videos. You'll make sure that they're appropriate for your kids. And you also want to check to make sure that they have that blue button checked where they're approved for Fayette County use, okay? That way your kids can get to them. So I'll click on this, and I'll click right there. And now I have a video for them to watch. I could insert this also as part of my question, but I'm just going to do something like this. Watch this video. Okay. And I'm going to center that video right there. And that's looking pretty good to me. So they're going to watch a video after they have made these choices up here. Okay. And that will give us something to talk about after they're done taking the form, the interest survey. Okay, so everything looks good to me. I'm going to go to this view over here just to preview it. So we're going to select on that. And here we go. I'm going to type in my name. And click on next. All right, how do you like to learn? I like to learn in small groups because I think that that is the best way for me to learn personally. What type of candy do you like the most? Gosh, I like all of these, but I'm going to choose sour just for today. Now, what kind of music do y'all listen to? I listen to rock and pop and R&B and soul, and sometimes I listen to jazz. The other stuff, not so much. All right, and then I get to watch this video, so I'll watch the video. And I can make that a little bit bigger here. All right, if you click on YouTube, you can make it bigger, but it's not let me make it bigger right there. So there they can see the video, and that's fine. And then I can go to submit, okay? And that's going to submit my answers back to my teacher. So I'm going to close this out. And now back up here, now we're going to talk about responses. So I can click on responses, and I can see a summary of who has taken this form, who has taken this quiz. So it's Jerry Broyles, has my email address that collected. How do you like to learn in a small group? Really nice diagnostics and summary for you guys to actually talk about and do a classroom discussion now. We can see that most of the kids in the class like to learn in a small group or whatever it may be. Okay, and so you see a really nice summary of all those answers. Now, I'm going to show you a different quiz that has a lot more answers to it and see how that looks, because this one is just, again, one person as my sample. Here I can go to my questions, and I can scroll through and see the different options for the questions. So there's all of them that Jerry has answered. I'm sorry, that's been answered by one person so far. This is a summary, okay? Then I can go over here to individual, and I can see what just Jerry has answered. And I can scroll through. If there's more students here, this number will go up, and then you can use the right arrow over here to go to the next response. Now, this page is really important for you. I haven't printed out too many of these because the spacing in Google is just so large. There's a lot of blank area, a lot of white space. I really don't like how they do that very often. So I don't print hardly anything from Google anyway. Over here is where you can turn responses on and off. So if you're not ready to send this quiz out, and maybe you said it'd be ready at 8 o'clock and it really isn't ready at 8 o'clock, you can just turn it off right here, okay, until you're ready for it to be sent out, okay? Now, you can also do a message right here that's a little bit more personalized and tell them why they can't get to the quiz, or tell them to email you so that they can actually have access to this quiz, okay? Now, right here is a spreadsheet, and this is how you'll actually look at your data most of the time, especially if you're using quizzes and grades. You're going to look at that data and hopefully transfer that over to Infinite Campus if you're not using Google Classroom. So I will just click on that, and it gives me a choice to create. So I'm going to click on Create here. And this is exactly what it looks like. Again, this is where it has that time stamp and date. It has a date right here, and then the time that it was actually submitted. It has their email address, first name, all this should be matching up, of course. Now, if you allowed them to take it over again, take it more than once, which was not one of our settings, but if you did, then their name and their email address would show up several times, depending on when they took it and how many times they took it. Now, the last time that they took it will show you, the date that is the last, the most current. That will be the last time that they've taken it. So that time stamp and date is really important, okay? So I'll close that out, and I'm going to show you a few other examples here. Here is a quiz that I've worked on before, and this is just to get a feel for other things. And I'm going to show you what that checkbox grid looks like and that multiple choice grid. So I've used passwords before, which is really a cool feature if you're actually in a physical environment with your kids. And that's something that we can talk about later if you want to. But using a password is nice because they can't open the quiz and get into it unless they have that password. So here's some examples of using pictures right here, okay, with your kiddos. And this one was which word below reminds of the picture you see above, so you can use pictures that way. Here is multiple choice. That is just a drop down. Let me get to that grid that I was talking about. So yeah, that multiple choice grid question looks like this. You can have some kind of Likert scale. It kind of looks like one here with different choices from something very easy to something very difficult. And then they would look at these choices here and then just score them going across rows. Okay. Now this one looks very similar. It's an example of multiple choice grid question. Again, you can have novice and ninja, as your extremes and then everything in between. Okay, I'm going to go to responses here, and we're almost done. I know we're over about 6 minutes right now. So this is what the summary will look like when you have 71 responses. You'll get a better feel of what your kids know. And you can also see from the summary and the graphs and charts that you have a better feel of what your kids are doing, okay, and what they like. Really good for an interest inventory. Okay. All right, and then this is just that grid that we had just showed you where it was very easy to difficult. And now we have all these different choices and we can hover on the bars and get a little bit better feel of exactly how many kids thought this was easy, how many thought it was simple, and so on. Great feedback for you guys. Okay. All right. Then you can go to questions and do like a question analysis. So if I want to go to what is a good estimate of pi, I can see that 50 people responded 3.14, 8 responded 3, and so on. Okay. Now I can also go to individual, and as I said before, you can see I didn't collect names on this one, so that's a good thing for this because I'm showing it to you. But you can see what the first person chose and their answers. You can scroll to the next person and so on. And this is actually how you would grade short answer questions. And Paula will go over that probably with you tomorrow. Okay. So I'm just going to go back through here, my notes, and make sure that I hit on everything. I think we have covered just about everything that I plan to cover with you today. Yeah, it looks like we're in really good shape. Again, if I was going to send this quiz out to somebody, I'm going to close this one out, go back to my quiz. If I was going to send this to somebody, I would go right here to send, and I could email it to that person right through here, or I could send this link right here to them in an email, or I could deploy it through Canvas using an embed code, or I could also add it as like a file type inside Google Classroom. Okay. All right, Google Forms is great. You're going to have your second session on this tomorrow with Paula. Again, there's a lot to it. If you have questions, feel free to visit us in office hours. We would love to help you out with this. And I'm going to go ahead and end this session, and then we'll go to the chat room and see if there's any questions for me today. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you coming. We'll see you soon.